What's up, everybody? It's Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod. You're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. And today we're going to be comparing the New Balance 1080 V14 to the rest of the market and talking about the differences between the shoes. Now, if it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below. Feel free to jump around to the various comparisons within this video, but if you do so, I would sure appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and leave a comment. Let me know what I could be doing better or what you enjoyed most about this video. Now, some quick disclaimers about the shoes. Many of them I was provided for the purpose of review, but I was not paid to make any content, was not asked to make any specific videos, and no one gets to watch these videos beforehand. All thoughts are entirely my own. Now, with that out of the way, let's break down the shoes and how they stack up to the V14. Now, if you're looking for a full review or breakdown of the V14, or you want to see how it compares to the 1080 V13, I just posted that video a couple of days ago. I'll link that video at the end of this one, so go check that out if you're curious how the update has been overall and how much I enjoyed the 14. First up, we have the Brooks Glycerin 21. From a price perspective, these shoes are fairly similar. You have $165 for the 1080 V14 and $160 for the Glycerin 21. Now, keep in mind that the Glycerin 22 is coming out in February, and so the Glycerin 21 is probably going on sale soon if it's not already. Now, from a specs perspective, these shoes are fairly similar in weight. The biggest differences are going to be in the fit, the drop, and the feel underfoot. The 1080 V14 has 39 in the heel, while the Glycerin 21 has 38. The big difference, though, is that the Glycerin is a 10mm heel-to-toe drop, so it only has 28mm in the forefoot. Meanwhile, the New Balance 1080 V14 is going to have 33 in the forefoot. So if you're a heel striker, the cushion on the heel is going to be fairly similar as far as stack, but what that means is, as a heel striker, if you strike with your heel in the V14, you have less distance to travel through and roll through, versus you may come slapping down in the Glycerin 21. Now, as far as the fit of the shoes, the Glycerin 21 is a fairly narrow fit overall. Though it was a little bit more accommodating for a Brooks model, I would still categorize it either standard or narrow, versus the 1080 V14 I would say is standard to wide. Now, underfoot, the foams couldn't be any more different, though. I find that the DNA Loft nitrogen injected in the Glycerin 21 is soft and supportive, but in comparison to the Fresh Foam X, it's almost firm. Now, with the firmer nature of the nitrogen injected foam, as well as the lower overall stack in the forefoot, you're going to get more ground feel overall in the 21, though keep in mind that's still 28mm in the forefoot, so it's not like you're really on the ground. But the foam is just not going to squish or compress in the same way. It's going to be a more kind of supportive feel underfoot, less so a foam that really squishes down. Now, the other thing is that I do find that the Glycerin 21 is probably a little bit more breathable than the V14, but both of them have some nice cushioning in the heel and tongue, so they're going to be warmer overall shoes for the most part. From a stability standpoint, I'd say they're fairly comparable. I think that the V14 may feel a little bit more unstable because of how much squish there is, where this is going to be kind of a nice solid base underfoot, but the narrowness of this shoe may cause a little bit of instability. Keep in mind, though, that you can actually get almost any daily training model from Brooks in a stability version with the guide rail system, so that is true for the Glycerin 21 as well. Next up, we have the Hoka Clifton 9. A couple of key differences between these two shoes are probably going to be the width of the shoes, the arch support, and then the midsole underfoot. Starting with the fit of the shoes, I found that the Clifton 9 was actually a little bit more accommodating than past Clifton models. I wouldn't call it a wide shoe by any means, but it is a little bit wider, and it is narrower, though, than the V14. One of the more prominent features, though, of the Clifton is going to be that arch support, where I didn't really feel that there was significant arch support in the New Balance 1080 V14. The arch support in the Clifton 9 is pretty noticeable overall. From a stack height perspective, these are very similar. So you have 40mm in the heel on the Clifton 9, you have 39 in the V14, and then you have a 5mm drop and a 6mm drop. So you've got 33 in the forefoot and 35 in the forefoot. So overall, similar drops, similar overall cushioning, but because of the slightly higher stack and lower drop, just by a little bit, you get 2 more millimeters in the forefoot of the Clifton 9. Now, I find the Clifton 9 to be a little bit more breathable overall, and I do find that the foam is a little bit more responsive. It's not quite as firm as the Glycerin 21. It's not even close to as squishy as 1080 V14. So it's kind of somewhere in between. It's kind of, again, still in that soft yet supportive range, but I find that this foam had a little bit more pickup overall, in my opinion. So I find that the pace versatility of the Clifton 9 is a little bit better than the V14, but as I've said in my review of the V14, extra pace versatility in a cushion shoe like this, more of like an easy day recovery day shoe, unless you're using a 1 to 2 shoe rotation, doesn't really matter that much, because for days that you're going to go a little bit faster, you'll just choose a different shoe. But if you are a 1 or 2 shoe rotation type person, I find that the Clifton 9 is going to be a little bit, not a lot more, but a little bit more versatile. V14. Next up, the ASICS Gel Nimbus 26. The biggest difference between these two shoes, again, we're probably going fit as well as sensation underfoot. Now, from a stack height perspective, you have 42 in the heel and 34 in the forefoot for an 8mm heel-to-toe drop versus the 39, 33, and 6 over here on the V14. So the Gel Nimbus 26 is going to be slightly higher stack and slightly higher drop overall. From a fit perspective, I found that the 26 was very wide, to the point where I had some lockdown issues in the 26, especially because you also have kind of the sock or booty like upper construction, whereas I didn't have any lockdown issues in the V14. 26 was a lot more breathable, though around the heel you have a lot of cushioning and that got a little bit warm, but for the most part, like over by the laces, toe box, and everything, I felt like the shoe breathed really, really well. And from a foam perspective, I found that this was not very squishy at all. In fact, I honestly found that the Gel Nimbus 26 was a lot firmer than I was expecting. A lot of people talked about how this was a really, really plush shoe, and I just didn't think that that was the case overall. So if you want something that is very wide, something that is very accommodating and fit, something that has a kind of more supportive foam underfoot that's going to give you a lot of protection from the road, maybe something that's going to take on a lot of bulk miles, but isn't really going to have pace versatility at all. In fact, I find the V14 has more pace versatility, which I don't think that's a very pace versatile shoe. So the 26 is going to be just kind of your workhorse overall. If you're someone who's just doing tons and tons of miles, lots and lots of easy, I could see why you would enjoy the Nimbus 26. Now, the Gel Nimbus 26 came in at $160, but it's now $120 because the 27 should be dropping fairly soon. So I'm sure when the 27 drops and I get a chance to review it, I will likely do a comparison to the V14 to break it down for you guys. But as far as these two shoes right now, those were some of the main comparisons or specs that are different between the two. Now, lastly, the 361 Eleos, maybe a lesser known company or lesser known shoe. 361 is a very popular brand in China. They sponsor athletes such as Nikola Jokic and Aaron Gordon on the basketball front. I'm not sure they're athletes on the running front, but they've put together some decent performance models. And again, very popular in China, launching more and more in the US, especially coming in 2025. Now, the Eleos is probably more of a traditional daily trainer, just in the sense of you have 36 in the heel and 30 in the forefoot for a 6mm heel-to-toe drop, versus 39 is really pushing, if not already in that max cushion territory. The squish of the two foams, in my opinion, is very similar, as is the fit of the shoes overall. So these two shoes are very similar in kind of overall feel. The key difference here in my mind is the Eleos is surprisingly responsive. So speaking of the necessity for, like in a 1 to 2 shoe rotation, more pace versatility, more spring in a shoe that can kind of go easy but can also pick up a little bit, the Eleos is going to be one of the more responsive cushion trainers on the market. Think that maybe the Hoka Skyflow is the closest in bounce in as far as like these, again, like cushion daily trainers or like standard daily trainers or higher stack daily trainers. Now, I find that the Eleos is a little bit warm and very similar to the 1080 V14. So these two shoes very similar. I think that 361 did a really, really good job because the 1080 is going to be one of the more popular models for daily trainers out there. So I think more people should be trying the Eleos. And like I said, fit pretty much accommodating. It's not, I wouldn't say like full blown wide, good lockdown in the shoe overall. And the weight of these shoes, I believe, is almost identical. So like I said, very similar overall shoes. You can even see like similar outsole patterns. Main key difference here, slightly lower stack, slightly faster, slightly higher stack, probably more of a true easy day trainer. So some final thoughts on the 1080 V14 and its competitors. I would say that one thing to just keep in mind is, with the exception, I think, of the Eleos, the Glycerin 22, Hoka Clifton 10, and Gel Nimbus 27 will all be launching actually in the next few months. I already have the Glycerin 22 there, I just haven't put any miles on it. So there will likely be some major updates to the foams and the feels, potentially with stack heights, all of that, in those models that I just compared the V14 to. But if you are trying to decide whether you should go with one of those previous models, or you're trying to buy a shoe in the next few weeks and are comparing it to the V14, I hope that this was informative and can give you a little bit of guidance. And just understand that there's no such thing as like a bad running shoe. It really comes down to the experience overall that you're looking for and want on your feet, as well as how your feet react to those foams and those setups within the shoes. Now, if you stuck around this far, I sure appreciate it. please feel free to drop a comment below. Let me know what you liked about this video, as well as what I could be doing a little bit more of or a little bit better at. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. And if you're feeling generous, turn on notifications so you get notified every time I drop a new video about running shoes. And with that, we'll wrap up the video and I'll ask, what is your favorite cushion daily trainer in 2024? Or what are you most excited for in 2025? Let me know down below. Thanks, everybody.